Hi everyone, in today's lesson we are going to talk about finding limits graphically. A limit is known as a y value that a graph approaches but may or may not reach. Okay, the notation is as follows. The limit as x approaches c of f of x. So what we would write is we would say like this, the limit as x approaches some value x, we'll call it c, of f of x, of some function. That's the proper notation. Now, a limit exists at x equals c if and only if the limit from the right is equal to the limit from the left. So what I mean by that is we write the limit as x approaches c from the right with a plus sign. So we would say the limit as x approaches c with a plus of f of x has to be equal to the limit as x approaches c from the left. That's with a minus sign. So if these two things are equal, then the limit as x approaches c of f of x is equal to those two things. We'll dive into this a little bit more, but it's basically saying if the limit from the left equals the limit from the right, then the limit as x approaches c is equal. Okay? So a limit does not exist at x equals c if the limit from the left and the right are not equal. Okay? So, what do I mean by that? Let's look at this example. So, we're going to read this part A as the limit of f of x, which is this graph up here, as x approaches negative 4 from the left. So here's negative 4. So as x is approaching negative 4 from the left, we're going to use this top graph because that's where the graph is when we're to the left of negative 4. So as x approaches negative 4 to the left, what does the y value reach? The y value is 3. Now we say, okay, the limit as x approaches negative 4 from the right. That's what the plus sign means. So from the right, here's to the right of negative 4. As x approaches negative 4 from the right, the y value approaches negative 2. Now, do you see how they're asking in part C for the limit as x approaches just negative 4 with no negative or plus sign? So that just means what is the limit as x approaches negative 4? And in order for you to put something here, the limit from the left has to equal the limit from the right, which it does not. So that means the limit does not exist. And that's what DNE stands for, does not exist. So now if I want to find the value of the function, what is f of negative 4? So what is the y value when x is negative 4? Do I look up here or do I look down here? And the answer is that you look up here. Remember, you look at the closed circle rather than the open. The closed circle means equal to, and the open circle means not equal to. So when x is negative 4, y is 3. Okay, now let's look at the second column. As x approaches negative 1 from the left, what is the limit? So here's negative 1, here's the graph from the left. The y value is 4. Now the next one says the limit as x approaches negative 1 from the right. So here's negative 1 from the right, the y value is also 4. So now because the limit from the left was equal to the limit to the right, the general limit as x approaches negative 1 is in fact 4. And now what is the value when x is negative 1, y is 4? Now it's all the same. Okay. Next, the limit as x approaches 2 from the left. So here's 2. From the left, the limit or y value is negative 1. Now as x approaches 2 from the right, the y value or the limit is 5. So if I ask you to find the limit as x approaches 2, we have to look at the left limit and the right limit. Since they are not equal, we say the limit does not exist. So now what is the value of f of 2? It's what is the y value when x is 2. So again, when x is 2, we're going to look at the closed circle, not the open. So the answer is -1. Okay, next. The limit as x approaches 4 from the left. So here's 4. From the left would be this way. The limit as x approaches 4 from the left is the y value, which is 2. It's okay that it's an open circle. You can have limits that are open circles. Now the next one, the limit as x approaches 4 from the right. Here's from the right. The limit is also 2. So now that the limit from the left is equal to the limit from the right, the limit as x approaches 4 is in fact 2. And now let's find the value of f of 4. So what is the y value when x is 4? Well, it looks like it would be this value here, but because this is an open circle, that means the graph does not exist there. So there is an error. So it does not exist. All right, let's move on to the next page. Okay, let's try this example now. So, part A, the limit as x approaches -2 from the right. Here's x equals -2. Here's the graph from the right. The y value, or the limit, is -1. Now it says the limit as x approaches -2 from the left. Here's the graph from the left. The limit is -2, or the y value. So because the limit from the left does not equal the limit from the right, the limit as x approaches -2 does not exist. But can we find the value of f of -2? Well, let's see. Here's x is -2. We take the closed circle, so the value would be -1. Okay, part E, the limit as x approaches 8. So, notice how this one didn't come in two parts. It didn't say the left and then the right side like these two. So you have to think about that. So your question to yourself for E is the limit from the right equal to the limit from the left? If it is, there's a limit. If there's not, then it doesn't exist. So let's take a look at it. Let's find x equals 8. Okay, so it's here. So as x approaches 8 from the left, it looks like the limit is 2. And as x approaches 8 from the right, it looks like the limit is also 2. So the limit does exist, and the limit is 2. And I know this point up here might actually confuse some people, but that has nothing to do with the limit. The limit is what it approaches, but may not actually touch, so this is where it approaches. This dot up here is actually the value of the function. So when x equals 8, the y value looks like it's approximately 3.5. Okay, so let's see now. The next part, as the limit as x approaches 2 from the right. So here's x equals 2. So from the right, it looks like the graph is headed towards infinity. So we'll say that goes actually down towards -infinity. Now the limit as x approaches 2 from the left goes up to +infinity. So the limit as x approaches 2 does not exist, because one is going up to infinity and the other is going down to -infinity. And the value of the function at x equals 2 does not exist because there's an asymptote there. So we're going to put does not exist. Now let's look here. The limit as x approaches -infinity. So as x approaches -infinity, where is this graph headed? It looks like the graph is headed just to -2. And now as x approaches infinity, so as x gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it looks like the graph is headed up towards y equals 2.5. Okay, take a minute now and try this last problem for homework, and that's where we'll begin tomorrow. All right, have a good night.